So I think we'll just start with a brief introduction of all our speakers and then we'll commence. So maybe have Robin introduce herself first. Robin, would you like to?
Hello everybody, I'm Robin Ratcliffe. I'm from Sydney, Australia, and I run a business and life coaching and corporate training business in Sydney.
Thank you. Sorry.
Hi everyone, my name is Sarita Chauhan. I am a business coach, founder of Europe Inspiring Lives. I train women entrepreneurs and so far I've trained more than 6,000 women entrepreneurs in last 4 years.
Thank you. Geeta?
Hi, I'm Dr. Geeta Bhaskar from the University of Education Campus. I'm an assistant professor there in AI and software engineering and also vice chair of Gender Equality University.
Thank you, Geeta. And I'm Preeti Gulati. I'm an ex-banker and now I run my own firm called Expertise, which is a top management expert network. I'm also a trainer and coach and facilitator with the global HR consulting firms, though I always still say I'm essentially a banker. So, to start the session on effective time management, there was this one line which I read and I loved it, and it says, I don't know what the source is, and it said, we count our money, but do we count our time? So, so on that note I'll start, and I'll touch upon 3 themes. One is the successful tools in my journey, time management tools. 2 is why do we waste time, procrastinate? And 3rd is a new subject which I'm just getting into and I'm loving it, is on mindfulness. May not be strictly related, but I actually thought it was very, very effective in terms of managing time. So to touch upon the first theme in terms of the successful tools in my journey, I've been in banking, I've had n number of clients, I run a morning 6 to 11 o'clock schedule, absolutely too busy. And there was a time when I would say stop. But few things which actually kept me going. One was my little diary. Okay, so my little diary, or rather my big fat diary, which always remained on my desk. It was not a diary I carried around to make notes in, but it was purely to manage me and my time. And the one thing, and I always encourage people to maintain a diary. I find a lot of people who really don't maintain a diary, and I find that whatever I need to get done, if it gets noted in that particular date in a diary, it would get done. If it wasn't there, it wouldn't happen. And really, that has worked stupendously for me. You can never ever remember the smallest of things that really need to be captured there. And, I need to call up somebody 2 weeks hence. I'll never remember. So if I put it down on the right time, it worked for me. It really worked for me. So my diary is one horrible, squoggy looking page every day, but that's what keeps me going. I became a huge multitasker, strictly and purely by the help of a diary. The other thing that worked for me was time slotting and essentially structuring my work time. The day I say that from 10 to 11, this is what I'll do, and this is not I'm talking about clients and appointments, and that my diary took care of. But this was pure structuring of my time and schedule, and which was essentially saying, okay, fine, I need to do this and this and this and this and this and this, map it, put it in a structure, say between 11 to 12 I do this, from 12 to 1 I do this, 1 to 2 is lunch where I meet up with my people, chat up with them casually over lunch, and so on and so forth. The day I structure myself, I am so super effective. The day I don't do it, and there are often times I wouldn't do it, but the day I would do it, I would really feel good at the end of the day, because I know I've done the best I can, and it's all got captured in there, and it's happened. I would actually land up feeling very, very effective and productive that day. So those are my little tools which made me hugely efficient in managing an amazingly tight schedule through the day. To come to the second aspect in terms of why do we waste time? What is it that, why do we push time? And the few things I feel is that firstly, I think we're unsure of ourselves. We don't know the outcome of what we're going to do, so we kind of try and push it, procrastinate. We're scared, there's a fear of failure. So because there's a fear of failure, we don't land up doing the things because we don't know what the outcome is. And if the outcome is not good, we might feel rejected. And that's another thing which I realized that, the reasons why we would try and push it is rejection, fear of failure. The other thing is also perhaps not delegating enough. So when we're not delegating enough, we do land up taking on too much and then land up doing nothing. So we can be more efficient if we delegate. So in delegation, one thing, a subsection of non-delegating is probably trust. And if you do not trust people, you may land up not delegating. And when you don't land up delegating, you're holding it all together and you're not very efficient with your time because each one has their own skills and traits, and we should just harness on what we are good in and rather than trying to do it all by ourselves and essentially making ourselves ineffective. So that was the other angle. And the other aspect of effective time management is the ability to say no. So we don't say no. We try to be there in every place, and again we make ourselves inefficient. Again, we need to focus on what works for us, focus on quality and what will harness our own potentials better, and say no. And of the last few years, I've started learning to say no. Some people don't like it, but that's the way it goes because that's the only way I can be more efficient with my time and be more productive. There's this Parkinson's law which says that time expands to fill in the time you have for a particular task, and that is so true. If it's a 1-hour project and we have the whole day, we will take until the last hour to finish it, and that's so true. So actually that's where the time slotting and the time structuring really works, because then we say, fine, I have to do this, and then I have my time slots for different things in the rest of the day. And there's a Pareto law which says, that 80% of the effects come from 20% of the causes. So essentially, what we do, 20% is what actually produces 80% of the result. So, but there are a few things which we land up doing during the day, and which we don't realize that it's not really in our qualitative sphere of things. And it's an aid and a tool which really helps in that is the Stephen Covey's time matrix. I don't know, have you all heard about the Stephen Covey's time matrix? Are you all well aware of it? Can you capture it a little bit? Or maybe we can do it post and the other speakers talk about it. And I have a little activity on that which will actually get everybody together in it. So anyway, just to brief upon it is, I'll just take a second there.
Life, which are important but not urgent, what are they? They all are emergencies, deadlines, last minute pressures. We just have to take care of things. Things are happening. We need to meet a deadline. They all come into quadrant number 1. Things which are important and urgent are quadrant number 2. And this is something that we manage. And important and urgent is what? Is actually where we need to think, strategize, spend our main time on, spend our time on our goals, whether it's personal or professional. And this is something that we need to focus on. And not urgent, not important. Where we do land up spending up a lot of our time. Things like sudden calls that happen. In India, we pick up our phones too often. In the US, they won't pick up their phones. In India, any phone call in the middle of anywhere, they'll pick up their phone. Or sometimes there are meetings, we just fix up meetings after meetings, which really may not, I mean, they're sometimes essential, but they're not necessarily the most important. And we fill up our time and day with the non-important and not urgent aspects, which is the quadrant number 3. And this is something we need to avoid. And the urgent and not important, absolutely, totally avoid. Mindless TV watching, waste of time. Whereas here we can actually even put in our recreations. So this is something which, this is the quadrant of necessity. This comes up in our life, which is bound to happen. This one is where we need to spend our qualitative time. This is the quadrant of quality and personal leadership. We're talking of there, which is actually is the quadrant of deception. Phone calls and stuff, we deceive ourselves. We spend a lot of our time there. And this is quadrant of waste. And if you really slot your day and time in these 4 quadrants, you will actually realize so much of our time is just spent on the wrong things. And all we really need to do is focus on this one. Sorry, did I put that wrong? This is urgent and not urgent. Yeah. So essentially, this is what I wanted to bring forth to everybody.
And one last line on mindfulness. So we can do a little activity on this at the end of the period in case there's time. But the third theme of my discussion was on mindfulness. And I'll just take a minute. I was reading this book, which really threw up a beautiful thought in my mind. They said, there is a little survey and they asked people, when you're doing any activity, what are you thinking about? And most of the people came back saying that they were thinking of something else other than what they were doing. So the mindfulness aspect of management of our time and what we are doing is so important, because we are not thinking of what we are doing, we are thinking of something else other than what we are doing. How can we be effective? How can we be productive? How can we manage our time more beautifully? So mindfulness is something, that's my buzzword at this point of time in my life. Thank you.
I think Chris has been in my room looking at my notes.
I'm sure you'll have a lot of things that we can learn from.
Who's ever said that they wish they had more hours in the day? More days in the week? More weeks in the year? You know, my friends, we are all just given 24 hours in each day. 7 days in a week and 52 weeks in a year. And that's it. That's all you're getting. Have you ever wondered, though, if we all got the same amount of time, why do some people accomplish heaps and others don't? Maybe that's even ourselves. Some days we get heaps done, and other days we get nothing done. My name is Robin Ratcliffe, and I'm from Sydney, Australia. My business is Ultimate Outcomes Coaching and Training. I'm a business and life coach and a corporate trainer. I'm the author of the book Time Mastery. Do you remember when you were young? We couldn't wait until time passed. We couldn't wait until it was our birthdays. We couldn't wait until it was Christmas. And then as we got a little bit older, we couldn't wait until it was Friday and the weekend was coming. We couldn't wait for Friday to come around. If only we realised how precious time was back then, we wouldn't have wished it away. But when we see those whose lives have been cut short, it's then that we realise that none of us know how much time we've got left on this earth. I'd like to share something with you that happened just last year. I had two beautiful cousins. They grew up with me and they were more like friends, and both very dear to my heart. My cousin Wayne had worked for Qantas Airlines all of his life and was longing for the redundancy that was being promised to him, which would mean he could retire early at 57. Wayne has a lovely wife and a family, and it created a happy life for himself and his family. And he was really looking forward to receiving his redundancy and spending a long and happy retirement with his wife. Wayne received his redundancy just 1 hour after he received the news that he had a terminal brain tumour and had months to live. But whilst that was devastating news, and his dreams of retirement had been shot, Wayne died with no regrets. It was so sad that his life plans were cut short, but he had no regrets because he had made the time to do what was important to him. 2 months later, my cousin Martin had a fall, hit his head, and received a brain injury, and he died 6 weeks later at age 58. Unfortunately, Martin was estranged from some of his family over some really silly situations. He told me, "One day I'm going to fix it. It's just not the right time." Martin was always talking about what he was going to do one day. At Martin's funeral, there were so many regrets. He didn't have the time to do what he wanted to do and reconcile with the people that he loved. Friends, we never know how much time we have. We never know what life will bring to us. We need to love, respect, and honour and be grateful for every minute that we have. By the time you walk out of this room, you will have 60 minutes less than you had when you walked in. Now, I don't mean to depress you, but I want you to be reminded of how precious time is. Without time, we are nothing. We can't accomplish anything. And it's my true desire that you make time in your life for the things that are important to you. What do you really want to do in your life? What do you really want to spend your time doing? Who do you want to spend your time with? What do you really want to achieve in your life? What are you not doing that you really wish you were doing? Tomorrow's not guaranteed. So live your life today as though it was your last. We all have 24 hours in every day. We get to choose how we spend each and every one of those hours and minutes. We get to choose. Choose wisely, as once they have gone, you can never get them back. Never. When we do take control of our time and change what needs to change, that's when we can really enjoy our lives. I'm passionate about people having the best and happiest life that they can have, and having the most time that's available to them. Time to do the fun things in life. People say to me sometimes, I'll do that when I find the time. And I say to them, you'll never find the time. The time's not lost. You need to make the time. And this is where effective time management comes in. I wrote my book Time Mastery because I truly believe that when we master our time, we control our time, we take charge of it, and we decide how to spend it, then and only then can we create the lives that we truly want. We can't cover everything here today, but the first and very important thing is to know what we want. What are our goals? What do we want in our life? What do we want to achieve? And where do we want to spend our time? We need to be very clear on our goals. We need to visualize them, and we need to be prepared to give up some things in our lives in order to achieve our goals. And this is where prioritizing our time comes in. It's about setting priorities and taking charge. It means changing habits or activities that cause us to waste time. It means being willing to experiment with different methods and ideas to enable you to find different and better ways and make change in our lives to get the results that we want. We need to learn to be assertive, and sometimes we need to say no. Many people use a daily plan to motivate themselves, and having a daily plan and committing to it can help you stay focused and set your priorities for that day. Research shows that if you're more likely to get things done and things accomplished if we have them written down and we can follow a plan for the day. I have a daily planner worked out for my clients to use, and a lot of them find that very, very helpful. If anybody wants a copy of that, I actually have lots of time management tools that I'm more than happy to email to you. They help me, and I'm sure that they could help you too. So just give me your business card. I'm very happy to send them to you. I'm sure that they will help you. Sometimes we have projects that seem so large and so overwhelming, we often just find it difficult to get started. You know the saying, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. And that's the way we need to tackle those really big projects. A lot of people procrastinate. I find the most common causes of procrastination are not having a clear outcome, not really knowing what we want, not knowing where to begin, overwhelmed. Everything just seems so big. Sometimes it's a lack of passion, and very often it's the fear of failure or success. But simply, the people who have overcome procrastination have the ability to select their most important task at any given moment and then start on that and get it done both quickly and well. Getting started is often the hardest part. And we need discipline to just start and then focus on how good it's going to feel when that job is done. Sometimes we need to just do it. Stephen Covey said, the key to prioritize what's on your, the key is not to prioritize what is on your schedule, but to schedule your priorities. Organisation doesn't happen overnight, and it's not always an easy destination. It takes a lot of hard work, a lot of discipline, and a lot of good habits to keep you on the path of good organisation. It's a good habit to organise tomorrow, today. I always like to know what's on my schedule for the next day before I go to bed at night. But we also need to be flexible enough to be able to adjust our plan and always remember we are in control of our time. However, don't get caught up with the planning. Sometimes we can be so busy planning we forget to take the action. And it's the action that we take that will get us to the places that we want to go to. Jim Rohn says discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment. To achieve things that we want to achieve in our lives, we need to know what we want, why we want it. We need to take massive action towards it. We need to check our results and be willing to change when we need to change. I'd like to leave you with these words from Harvey Mackay. Time is free, but it is priceless. You can't own it, but you can use it. You can't keep it, but you can spend it. Once you've lost it, you can never get it back. So the next speaker is Sarita.
Good afternoon, everyone. So basically, I don't know what's time management. Because I don't know how do you manage something which is consistent, which is not in your hand. It's not like a piece of bread I give you and you can really manage it. So I don't believe in time management, honestly. However, what we manage is our priorities. My life is so different from your life and your priorities, your responsibilities, your belief systems. So how can someone teach you time management? It's not something that I can teach you or anyone else in this world. So it's a myth. Teaching effective time management is a myth. What I really believe in is harmony, time harmony. Okay. And I tell you 3 dynamics that I have learned in my life, and I've also taught it to some of my coaches, and they really work. So 3 dynamics, because we live in a world which is very dynamic, where everything changes just like that. So you just can't say, what, I have to go at 9 a.m. and you meet traffic on the road, so you reach late. So technically we live in a world where I cannot say that I manage my time perfectly. But yes, there are 3 dynamics. If you use those in your life, they may help you. First dynamic is planning versus flexibility. What I mean here is, you can always plan to, there are certain things that you can always plan, 9 a.m., 10 a.m., 11 a.m. But there are certain things where you have to be flexible. So, as I mentioned, you have to reach your office at 9 a.m. You met traffic on the road, or there was an accident, or a rally, or a politician, you can't. So you always should keep a margin. That's where the flexibility comes. So you have to have some flexibility in your hand where you know that you might be late. So start 30 minutes in advance. So planning versus flexibility. You know that we live in a world where people can be late. So how do I keep some fillers in my life? If I have to meet someone at 12 p.m., I know they can be 10-15 minutes late. So why not plan an activity or something that I can do if someone is late? That's being flexible. So planning versus flexibility is the first dynamic. Second is a to-do list versus a priority. Okay, so you have 8 things that you want to accomplish in a week or a day. Have the to-do list, but have priorities very clear. So I believe in having 3 priorities of each day of my life. If I do those 3 things, I know that I have made best use of my time in that day. So have a to-do list and have priorities very clear. This is where I think the urgent and most important things can be filled in. So I have to have those clear. If I do other things in my to-do list, I can celebrate. But even if I meet my 3 priorities, I know that I have been very, very productive in the day. Now, third dynamic is a fixed schedule versus duration. I have seen people being very, very harsh on their time. My father was an army officer, so I've lived a very, very disciplined life. We were very particular about time. But it doesn't give you anything else than stress. Most times, we have corporate jobs, we have lives, we have people, you have to be on time. But if you keep fixed schedule for each and every single thing in your life, you will always be in stress. Whereas I have also met people who are very, very flexible with their time and they take others' time for granted. That's sad. So, having a fixed schedule versus duration means that I have to exercise. Now, I don't have to keep it at 6 a.m., 7 a.m. because I travel, because there are people in my life where I have to be, in morning sometimes. So I cannot say that I have to exercise at 6 a.m. every day. What I can do is I exercise an hour every day. Now that can be 6 a.m., 12 p.m. or at times when I'm traveling, what I do is I break them down in 15 minutes, 4 breaks in the day, and I know I've exercised. I've not been harsh on myself. So similarly, you can have duration for most things in our life, like eating, sitting with your partner, taking care of your kids, playing with them, even work. So there is a rule that I follow in my life, which is not more than 6 hours of work. I work only 6 hours a day. Why? Because if I'm working 10 hours a day, I'm not in business. I'm employed. So I follow that rule. Remaining time, I enjoy. I go to meetings. I do anything that I want. So I enjoy complete freedom in my life only because I believe in creating time harmony and not a myth called time management. So you can also do few things that require duration, not time. When I have to be in office, it cannot be 9 to 6 p.m. It can always be breaks wherein in between I'm going to my classes, doing anything. So I have to have some schedule where I'm meeting. Okay, excuse me for my throat. So I'm meeting people, so I have to be on time. But there are few things in my life each and every single day when I am actually just using duration as a hack or anything you say. That's my strategy in life. So these 3 things have really helped me in my life, and I enjoy complete time harmony in my life. Never stress about time. Now, these are 3 things. I'm sure it will help you if you follow in your life. You can be flexible with the approaches as well. I want all of you to do a small exercise. You all have pen, paper. If nothing else, mobile. You can take notes. I want all of you to think for just 2 minutes. What are just 2 things I can change in my life? It can be a habit, it can be a routine, it can be anything which will give me extra time during the day. What are just 2 things that I can change in my life? It can be a habit, it can be wasting time on mobile, it can be anything which if I change, it will give me some extra time, maybe 15 minutes extra in a day. So take 2 minutes and write that. Alright, those of you who are still thinking can go back home and do the exercise. Those who have done, would anybody like to share what they have written? Anyone?
Can I tell you one
Please.
probably not to check my emails every hour, and perhaps to sort of, just avoid doing that and do it maybe once in the morning or once every 2 hours instead instead of every hour.
Very nice. Give the lady a round of applause. Very nice. Thank you.
If I may intervene, that's the quadrant 3.
Yes.
Urgent but not important.
Absolutely. So I hope this helped you. And if you want to ask anything, because normally I've seen in sessions you don't get time. If anybody has any question, I'll be more than happy to help you or work with you or give you any hack that I have. Thank you so much.
Very good afternoon. I'm sorry I'm not going to use the mic today. Well, I'm Dr. Geeta from University of Nottingham, National Campus. Whatever that I want to say, all the three speakers have already said. But it would be really nice to share some of the thoughts, to rewind a little bit and show back in visual. Right? Starting with, to agree with the third speaker. My father was an army man as well. I worked with schedules. Since very young, I think 3 years old, I started with schedules. And, Dad used to say, you have to start waking up at 5 and I sleep sharp at 9:30. And I don't regret every single thing that my father taught me, because today I'm here sharing with all of you about time management. Is definitely because of him. Many things that I achieved in my life because of what he taught, especially in scheduling. And my PhD specifically is on scheduling optimization. So time management is something very important. And I also teach my kids the same way that my father taught me on scheduling. So they also have to wake up early. There's some good things that you can learn, especially they sleep same time, 9:30, go back to bed. Very good for their thinking skills and so on. Right. Talking back on second speaker and first speaker, I'll get back to what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to touch a little bit on how planning positively affects you, a little bit of the value, establish the need of planning, identify the methods of effective planning. They have already spoken, but I'm just going to rewind. Apply one of the methods. Yeah. So basically, some of you would have seen this statement before. Okay, imagine there is a bank credit your account each morning with 86,400. It carries over no balance from day to day. Every evening debits whatever part of the balance you paid to use during the week. What would you do? So, anybody in the floor that can share, what will you do if you have 86,400 in your bank every day? Spend it.
Withdraw from the bank. At the first thing in the morning.
Right? Anybody else? Another one. What will you do?
You'll be wise while spending.
Why spending it?
Take it out from one bank and put it in the other bank.
I use this for
That's
not
the
just adults but also children. But I would like to share. Alright. So most of you will say draw out every cent, of course. Okay? And well, everyone has such a bank, and that is called time. Every morning it credits us 86,400 seconds. And you must live in the present on today's deposit. Invest it so as to get from the utmost health, happiness, and success. The clock is running, make the most of today. And I agree to the second speaker. That was exactly what I want to say today, to the next part of it, but you have already heard. So again, I would like to stress, the clock is running. Make the most of today. Now let us just have a look at value of time. Okay, some of us we don't realize how important time to us. How important is it? Let's say 1 year. Okay, in 1 year, ask him. Okay, study for 1 year. Okay, at the end of the day, I got F, fail. Okay, so 1 whole year you spend and you got F. Now, 1 month, let's ask our parents. Okay, 7 months maybe in incubator. Okay, how many of you have got children? 7 months old? No, older. 7 months in incubator? Yeah, alright. So I've asked quite a number of them, especially parents who got 7 months children. The suffering that they go through, especially that 1 month, is very, very painful. And if you see that, you usually can value the time. Now let's go 1 week. Ask him. He took over, the editorial subcon from another person. He was just acting for a week. And he was always wanted to be an editor, chief editor. And within that 1 week of all whatever that he had done, the next finishing 1 week, he got promoted to editor, replacing the editor who was before. So ask him 1 week. Tom Wright, no, from Somerset Times editor. Now, let's go to 1 day. Ask them how difficult to work every day in this kind of job. Yes, we are all here, and this is India. Yeah, I used to see this only in movies, but when I went last year to their place to see how they work, I realized how painful it is, the value of time in a day. Now, ask in an hour, ask him. Ask me, my own story. 1 hour made me terrible, sick, pain. At the end of the 1 hour, I received my husband was passed away. Right? That 1 hour praying. It took a lot of value of time. So ask him, especially those who are impatient, waiting for your valuable person. 1 hour pain. Now 1 minute, I'm going to show something. All of us have done this before. The 1 minute running, finding for that, stays on. 1 minute change. Now, this is a little bit stupid, but 1 second, I would like to show you. 1 second, there goes. 1 second. I don't want to show longer. But you see, the 1 second changes everything. That happens to my husband. Okay? But that wasn't a video. Okay? But that 1 second changed everything. Okay? 1 millisecond. Ask her. 1 millisecond. I was watching. Okay? Every time we go, but it might be just 1 millisecond of running difference. Okay? So this is Victoria Kumar of Russia. She used to get the first placing, and that 1 millisecond changed her. Alright? So you can see the value of time. Alright? So how important the time is in our daily life. Go back, have a thought of what the second speaker said. It's extremely important to understand what is the time all about. But let's go through this. Okay, the most important word in time management vocabulary. No. no, I'm not doing it. Okay? How can we say this is extremely important and should be said when it is important to say? Alright? Okay, so when you're saying, it's up to you to say it. Alright? You can keep calm. Sorry. No. Okay. You don't have to be very hard on it. Okay? You can't do everything. Don't undertake things that you can't complete. Remain consistent in your goals, exactly like what the first speaker said. Now, inability to say no, what happens? This organization, okay, you have more and more and more, that's what you can see in the table. Alright, unclear objective. You might have certain objective to achieve, but you are unclear because too many objectives at the end. Alright? And then too many things at once. Okay, stress and fatigue. Two. Okay? All work and no play. Work, 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 work. There's nothing else, like what the first speaker said. Okay? So here, what I'm going to say is, this is another view, interruption periods and inactivity. In this time management, we also have values. Alright? The prioritizing of your task. Where do the majority of your task fall on the chart? So I don't want to remind this, but she has already explained very well. So I'm just going to skip
I have a
this.
little exercise on this one, so
Yeah.
we come right back to you.
Yeah, you can use this. Yeah? Alright. One application that I use in my beside my diary, beside my own diary, is called Todoist application. You can download free. Okay, you can download free. It's an application in Play Store. You can find it, and it's very helpful. Okay, exactly like the diary. But you see, all of us are having mobiles. Okay, we work everywhere with mobile, and I think this application will really help you. Anyone have you download that particular link? They have how do you actually use that particular application, right? So I would like to end with treasure every moment that you have.
Great, thank you. I don't think I need to summarize all the speakers today, Ruby. So if there are any questions, and then I'll just get into a quick activity. So if there are any questions for any of the speakers, please do ask. Yeah.
I've got a really unusual question. I don't know if it's going to fall into what you've been discussing, but if I'm travelling, so I'm going to the airport or I'm catching a train, and my husband and I are travelling together, I like to get there at least half an hour earlier because I like to just relax and have a moment to browse the magazines and think what I want to. My husband is totally the opposite. He's just the last minute. He packs at the last minute, he rushes around, and so obviously there's a bit of conflict going on. And I'm just wondering if there's any kind of strategy that might help sometimes. So we just travel at different paces together. Sorry, it is a very unusual question.
That's a different personality. So I don't know whether you have heard of the Myers-Briggs personality, Myers-Briggs type indicator. So you're the type where you're the absolutely scheduling type, and your orientation with the world is very, very methodical, systematic. Whereas your husband probably fits into the the perceiving segment where so it's important to understand. So people on the J side, the people who are the structure types, are the people who want to schedule and control their lives. But if you talk about the other type of people, they're the type who says we want to explore. We don't want to schedule control our life. We want to explore every minute. So, and both of them are basically innate preferences. So I think if you even realize that he's the type who doesn't want to schedule his life, he doesn't want to control his life, but he wants to actually live every moment, take it as it comes. I think if you realize that it's an innate preference, then sometimes from both sides it can make a lot of difference in terms of coming to a midway understanding.
Thank you.
So luckily I have my husband. where the planning and flexibility comes in. So it's like I want to go 30 minutes early. He's like
Last minute.
0 minutes. I want to go 15. Now we have come to a level where it comes to 15 minutes. Really good. Early 15.
Anyway, pass. You're saying something, Robin.
I was just going to tell him the plane was leaving half an hour earlier. But yeah, definitely the 15 minutes in the compromise. Or sell it to sell to him why it's so good to get there early.
Thank you. Thank you.
But I use that half the time. It's going half an hour earlier than it is.
You have a question.
Yeah, I'm sorry I missed most of it, but the time management and the social media killing oneself, one's time, eating up. And I heard a lot of the ideas that you also have your personal social media strategy. How do you consult or suggest ways to balance time with social media?
I think time slot, because if you're on social media all the time, you just have to learn to say no even to an activity such as a social media. You just have to switch up and say, okay, 1 hour in my time in my life, in the evening perhaps, or whatever time that works for you. You will be, and if once everybody starts getting to know, I know people who say we don't look at our mobiles until between 4 and 5. If something urgent, call me. I'm not looking at my mobile. So you have to just probably learn to work that out for yourself in time slot.
Yeah.
Geeta has something.
Yes, yes. I would agree with her. Usually, for example, like I'm in emails, I'm in Facebook, I'm in Twitter, I'm in everything most of the time. But the first thing that I do when I go to my work is the first 1 hour I will never touch anything. And even when I wake up, I'll never touch anything. So I think I agree with her. So it's like 1 hour at least in a day where you can actually say to yourself no to social media.
Yeah. When it becomes somebody's work, right? If you have your own business and you really need to be on social media, so it's not even like binging, but it really is your life. So it also demands the balance. Thank you.
I'd like to add on to that point. There's an app which lets you know how many times did you open your social media. So the first day you are aware of it.
Yeah.
Yes. The first day when you will see that I have seen this 1,000 times, I think awareness and then acceptance and then controlling.
What's the name of that?
I don't remember, but there are many options.
Awareness and what is
Yeah, because I don't need it.
Social media awareness.
Facebook Anonymous.
I wanted to add something. People feel it very offended that if we are doing, I do that. I'm an R&D person, so in my staff also they are not allowed to use their social media from 9 to office time. Only lunch time they can use. But people, I think, feel it very offended. How to?
Yes, they get used to it.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry, I don't know your name, but I think
Camilla.
the answer
that's
is the word that none of us want to know, and that's the word discipline.
Yes.
And once we get a little bit good at it, we'll get a little bit better and a little bit better, and we'll start to see the fruits from that we're getting more done. So I don't think there's an easy fix. Slotting your time, definitely, but that's part of discipline. So I think it's just something we need to decide that we're going to do, be disciplined in, and we will get better and better of it.
Yeah.
Better and better at it.
Unfortunately, the access of my phone all the time with you, so tempting that you want to see it every day. So what I did was a lot of youngsters came, it's in 1 month at least 5 people come up, women especially come up to me and say, we're really struggling with this, we don't want to do it, but yet we do it. So I developed something called as tech break. Now what you do is, depending on how much tempted you are and how many times you are seeing it, what you can do is you can take a tech break. So every 1 hour you work, every 10 minutes you take a tech break and you access it. So every 1 hour, that it depends on you. You can take 30 minutes and 5 minutes break, a 3-hour work and a 10 minutes break, so totally on you, even half an hour break.
Right.
Depends on what you're doing, and so that works.
And when you do it like that, it has a purpose, and you're doing it for a purpose. Otherwise, it can just become procrastination.
Yeah.
And we're doing something because we don't want to be doing something else.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
Are there any other questions? We can just do a quick activity if we have the time.
We
Okay, 3 minutes. Okay. Should we just quickly? Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. So I just have a lot of activities, and I was wondering whether we could just time slot it in one of these forms, just for us to understand in terms of.
The first one.
Are we wanting to do it, or we can skip it also? Not a problem.
I think it's
Okay, skip it.